My brother David was born April 22nd, 1942, and was named after our dad Herman Christensen. That was when I was 3 and Roger was 6 years old. David was the baby of the family until Louis came along in 1947, which gave him the status of being the only boy in the family who had both a younger and an older brother. And David has always had a way of rationalizing everything to the positive. Well, and that's a successful character trait that has served him very well. There are 2 things I remember about David that stick in my mind. One was he went bluegill fishing with Grandpa Otto Lindemann in the boat at Lake Benton. And as he threw the fish string out, it caught on his ear. And I think Dad took a wire cutter and eventually cut it out of the ear. I honestly think I remember David smiling through the whole thing, as though he again was very, very special. I also remember a piece of wood, possibly made into a bench, that David used to get rid of his anger by pounding nails into it in the basement by the hour. I've used that trick on my grandchildren. It works. When we moved to Barnum, David was in the 4th grade, I was going into the 8th, and Roger was a senior, so our interests were different, but we were still a family and joined together in the chores around the house, as well as helping Dad with the chickens and the eggs and mowing the lawn, feeding the dogs, and so on. It was in the late 50s, while the family still lived in Barnum, that there was a little accident he had with his car. He was playing chicken with one of his friends on the lake when it was frozen, and they crashed. And again, here comes David knocking on the door. When Mom answered the door, he stood there with his front teeth in his hand and a silly, guilty smile on his face. That's David. When the family moved back to Tyler in 1958, David picked up right where he left off with his friends in school and his girlfriend from kindergarten, that was LaDonna Meyer. He became a carrier salesman for the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, presumably on his bike. Maybe Dad helped him with the car too, I'm not sure. But after football, basketball, and Boy Scouts, David graduated from Tyler High School and decided to attend Mankato State College, followed by Mankato Commercial College. David and LaDonna married February 23, 1963, with his 2 brothers Roger and Louis as his best men. After helping Dad at the hatchery, David and LaDonna eventually moved to Eldora, Iowa, where David was hired by the Farm Service Bureau, and that's where Jody Ray was born in 1965, and then Scott was born in 1969. While he was there, David was on the board of deacons in the church. He taught junior high school Sunday school. He was president of the JCs of Eldora, Iowa, and in 1974, my little brother David was named one of the outstanding young men of America, having been chosen from all those across the country. This was a tribute to David for his contributions to his community. David continued to be promoted to Regional Operations Manager for Northern Illinois, and then Regional Administrative Director in 1980, and in 1981 he was named the General Manager of the Clinton County Service Company, Breeze, Illinois, and Operations Manager for LW Service Company. The Christensen family was brought together when Mom and Dad had their 50th wedding anniversary in Tyler in 1981, where all of the siblings and their children spent a weekend together celebrating with the parents and grandparents. That was the last time we would all be together, parents, children, and grandchildren. When David and LaDonna divorced, he became the general manager of the Dairy Belt Farm Service Cooperative and moved to Wisconsin. It was one Thanksgiving after that he and Jeannie hosted Mom, Dad, Roger, Louis, and I, along with Jody, Scott, Lisa, and Robert. The Thanksgiving weekend was wonderful. with lots of food and card games and the whole family participating in the memories that we all held dear, especially listening to Dad tell his jokes with his Danish accent. I believe it was Sunday morning then that we all got up and looked out at the blizzard that was beginning to threaten our drive home. We all hugged and we said goodbye, and then we headed for home, not knowing that that would be our last time together as a family. David's always been supportive of Jody and John with their new babies, Jennifer born in 1992 and Jason in 1996, and Scott with his little Hannah Marie. So David is now a grandfather. David and Jeannie traveled to Las Vegas in November 1991, where Robert, Lisa, and I hosted their wedding with the help of our cousins Toots and Ray Ole and the other cousins at Christ Lutheran Church, followed by a small reception. They honeymooned downtown Las Vegas and they enjoyed the bright lights and the action at the casinos. Dad passed away the next year, and David was the strong brother who helped his younger brother Louis get through the difficult services. The next year, in 1993, I got a call from David that our younger brother Louis was very ill and had checked himself into the hospital in Chicago. Without that call, I wouldn't have been able to fly to Chicago and spend 10 hours with our youngest brother before he went into a coma and passed away a few days later. So now Mom had lost her husband and her youngest son. And with David's expertise, he helped her get through the process. David got his business smarts from school, of course, but he also got Dad's good business sense, and he's always been able to make things work. He wears Dad's black onyx ring proudly, and it really does belong with David. He wears it well. He and Jeannie visited Arizona a few years ago, and David took the time to play Battleship with Garrett, and lots of games with Robert's children and I, and Lisa, and spent time with the whole family, showing his wonderful attitude and his sense of humor. In 2012, he met his three cousins, Jerry, Judy, and Janice, and I, and Tyler, for the 125th class reunion at the Tyler High School. He spent the next 3 days playing tour guide for us, visiting the old swimming hole where we all learned how to swim, and the farms that they lived on, as well as the cemeteries where all of our ancestors are buried. It was a great weekend. David's very proud of his kids and grandkids, and he never quits finding new adventures. He is pretty fluent in his ability to send emails on a daily basis, so if you got one from him, he already had his hearty laugh. David is well known in his church in Chautauqua, Wisconsin, and he's still in the insurance business at the age of 73. This is 2015. He helps seniors with their income tax, and he's a regular at the senior exercise programs as well as several golf courses. I thoroughly enjoyed his playing tour guide when I visited them in the fall in 2012. He and Jeannie have a beautiful piece of property overlooking the lake. Although the original home burned down a couple of years ago, they have rebuilt, and I'm sure it's even more charming than ever. He has made a business out of hauling boats out of the lake in the fall and returning them to the lake in the spring when the ice is gone. They have their own pontoon boat that gives him great peace and satisfaction on the lake that never quits. So you ask, who is David? Well, he's the neat uncle that traveled from Wisconsin to Fargo, North Dakota to see my kids graduate from Oak Grove Lutheran High School. He's the little Injun that did.
Get with your brothers so I can get a picture with you and your brothers. Wouldn't that be a good picture?
Well, this is great out here. When I left Minnesota, it was Oh, for me?
Yeah.
I'll miss that one for you.
Dick?
This is camcorders.
Dick?
You have to do something.
Dick.
But now the
Get a picture of this.
the shade is
You guys drop back about 5 feet.
Get back. You're
You're in the shade.
They probably should get in the shade.
No, Mom, Mother, the shade's fine.
The shade's fine.
Yeah.
Shade's good?
So, okay. Now we go right,
This?
left.
Your other left.
Your other
Your other
left.
left.
Very good, David. I like that. Oh, right. We're good, yeah?
This is, how many years difference?
Oh, I don't know, 2 or 3.
Yes, anyway.
He can grow hair under his nose, too.
Yeah, well, that's the only thing you guys have in common?
Yeah, you're great.
He's the easygoing brother that never gave up, and he never gave in. And he was always welcome in any circle, anytime. David, my little brother, is one of the good guys.